Having talked about the positive things and how to support those, I'd like to take a moment and now talk about what are some of the things that as parents we could be doing that would make the children engage in negative behavior. Well, or one of the things that is really not of the making of the parent but could lead to negative behavior is mental illness. So there are several conditions that if somebody is suffering from, they are likely to behave in ways that are not considered appropriate. Examples are if they're suffering from attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is otherwise known as ADHD, if they have bipolar condition, they would have mood swings. If they have anxiety disorders, they are likely to behave in ways that are different than is expected. So it's important to look out for those kinds of states. The other thing would be a change in the routine. So it has been found that children love and thrive on routine. So when something changes drastically in their routine, they are likely to behave negatively. Examples of such changes would be a change of school. So the change in school may be necessitated by different things. Maybe you have changed jobs and you have to change the place where you stay, or you have had to relocate from the country, or the economic circumstances have changed and you're not able to afford the school that they were going to. Well, whatever the reason, that change could result in the child exhibiting negative behavior. Why? It's because these children have formed relationships in those environments. So they had friends in school, they had friends who are teachers, they had friends in the neighborhood, and when those friendships are disrupted, they may find themselves behaving in not very nice ways. And some of the ways they could behave would be throwing tantrums, refusing to go to school, being withdrawn. So it's good, or it's important that as parents we take cognizance of that and help them to transition when such a change happens. Children could also behave negatively because of bullying and child abuse. Now, when a child is bullied, they may, oftentimes they feel helpless. There's a sense of helplessness in the instances of bullying and child abuse. So in the presence of the bully or the abuser, the child is helpless. Away from that perpetrator, the child may want to express their discomfort, and they express this discomfort through behavior that is not necessarily appropriate. So they may be violent, they may be abusive, they may withdraw, they may avoid engaging in activities that are expected of them, So it's important that we are aware and we take interest in finding out if there's anything that might have changed in the child's activities. Something else that could result in negative behavior is learning disabilities. So there are some children amongst the population who have specific learning disabilities, which make it difficult for them to cope in school. The disabilities could relate to reading, they could relate to math, they could relate to writing, and ultimately it affects their achievement. So when they are unable to perform at the level that is expected of them and that they have set for themselves, they may find that they have a sense of frustration, and instead of coming out and expressing that, hey, I'm struggling here, and they may not even realize that it's something beyond them, they may express themselves through negative behavior. So it's important to work collaboratively with the teachers to see if it's something that is in the learning disability area, how can the child be helped? There are ways in which they can be helped. There's poor parenting as well. Now one would ask, which parent goes out to parent poorly? Well, there's many parents who do it, and they don't do it willfully, they do it without knowing. They do it with a lot of love. Now, here is a place where I'd like to share and say, we need to find out and appreciate that there are ways of parenting that work, and then there are ways that don't work. Now, what are some of the ways that do not work? Some of the ways that don't work are where the parent is quite akin to criticizing. So everything that the child does, you criticize. So the child wonders, hey, don't I ever do anything right? So because they would need some form of appreciation, you find that they will act up. So that's an area that parents would need to pay attention to. There is also the area of neglect. If a child is neglected, their needs are not met, their basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, attention, they are likely to behave in ways that are not particularly appropriate because they'll be looking for some form of attention. So as a caregiver, I'd encourage that we look at that. The other thing would be permissiveness. So this ties to the earlier point that I had mentioned of learning to say no. So there are parents who feel that to demonstrate love is to say yes to anything that the child says. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. It doesn't work in the immediate term, it doesn't work in the medium term, nor in the long term. So what that tends to do is to put the kids in a situation where they would feel a sense of frustration when they're not with a parent who is not permissive. And society is not as permissive as some parents would be. So parents would need to look at that area as well. There is also the authoritarian style of parenting where the parent adopts a stance of it's my way or the highway, and there's no space for the child to express themselves, there's no flexibility. So a child who is being raised in such an environment is likely to exhibit negative behavior because they feel trapped. They may not exhibit it with the parent, but they'll exhibit it in other environments where they feel that they have some room to flex. So that kind of parenting is one that we'd highly discourage. The other kind of parenting that would end up affecting the child negatively is the parenting style where the parent is overly protective. So, I mean, no parent wants a child to get hurt, but then again, being overprotective isn't the solution. Because what that then sends as a message to the child is life is unsafe, and you know, if daddy or mommy is not here, then things could really go bad. And when that happens, they would exhibit some behavior that is typically not appropriate. Now, the final thing that I'd like to talk about is excessive praise. Now, there are parents who feel that when I praise my child, I encourage them, it's all good. However, there is the limit to praise. Praise, it shouldn't be that everything that the child does attracts praise, because they will expect it. They'll then expect it on an ongoing basis. When it doesn't come, then they don't do it. In fact, for some, if the praise doesn't come, then they will totally not do the activity that you had expected them to do. So that is an area that would encourage parents to have a look at. Now, in closing, I'd like to just bring to us the point that behavior is something that has many factors contributing to it. And when we see it, it's in our interest to take a step back and try and understand what are the things that could be contributing to the behavior that we are seeing. It is not helpful to quickly run to one thing and say, this behavior is because of this thing. Oftentimes, there are many factors that are contributing to the behavior. I would say that in trying to help the children, where negative behavior has been observed, it would be worth our while to go in and maybe introduce an external party. It could be a peer, depending on the age of the child. If they are an adolescent, a peer that they have a close relationship. It could be a relative, it could be a family friend. It could even be a therapist, because there are instances where the professional help would be quite useful.